Cristiana Bonta, and I'm president and CEO of the Bonta Group. I started as a registered nurse, grew up in New York City and went to Bronx Community College, State University of New York at Buffalo for my bachelor's in nursing, went on for my master's in public health and my doctorate at UCLA School of Public Health.
What role has the Latino caucus played in your work, professional development?
I joined American Public Health Association in 1981, and it's such an enormous organization that it's hard to be able to feel at home. And so the Latino caucus had just started several years before that under wonderful leadership. And as a consequence, this was a home away from home where I would meet other Latino professionals.
How did you get to where you are today? Please tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you as a career as a Latina in public health.
Boy, that's a tall order. Let me think of how I'm going to approach that one. I grew up in Washington Heights, and when you're a kid in Washington Heights, you have exposure to so many of the richnesses of New York City and also the difficulties, the impoverishment that so many people experience. And so I always wanted to be a nurse, and started out being in a hospital, being able to care for sick children in particular. But I felt something was missing, and that what was missing to me was a larger health equity discussion and discussion about health policy. So I was very drawn to public health and was very pleased to be able to attend UCLA Fielding School of Public Health, first for my master's, and then I went back later in life for my doctorate degree. I've been just very, very fortunate that I always had bosses that saw my potential before I even realized it, and put me into jobs that sometimes took away my breath just even thinking about could I do the job or not. And in reality, working for a governor of this state such as California is an enormous responsibility. I think what motivated me was knowing that in these positions I had more and more ability to change health policy for people who really needed their voices heard, and that they really were disenfranchised from the American healthcare system and didn't have an opportunity to speak on their behalf. So it became my privilege and responsibility to speak on behalf of them. The Latino Caucus and APHA gives us our voice as individuals, as part of a larger community, and as part of a community of public health professions. So it's an honor and a privilege to be part of this universe of very talented people.
What advice would you give a Latina student interested in a career in public health? What do you wish someone had told you about early on in your career?
So a career in public health is a tremendous opportunity because you have the world in front of you. It's such a broad field. So you can be in nursing, you can be a health educator, you can be a dentist. All of these areas interrelate. And in your career, you can change. You might at one point, as I was, work in an area in a hospital. You might then switch to a community practice, as I did when I worked for Rural Health, establishing community clinics in California in the 1970s and early 1980s. You might then be fortunate to have your former boss recommend that you head up a local health department, as I did with the Long Beach Department of Health and Human Services. And you might have a comadre like Carmen Nevarez, who was our past president of APH, who said to me, you should be the state health department director in California. And so as a consequence, I went after that and was able to lead during 9/11, during a time when we added 1 million children to the Medicaid program. So I want students to know that they can dream big, that they can do enormous amounts of good for our communities, and sometimes in small ways and in very large ways, and that APHA becomes that safety net for them as a professional to be able to talk to other professionals about research, about action, and about heart and passion in public health. And we have all of that together, you will succeed.